Okay, so today we're going to be doing a Palmrest replacement on Lenovo Ideapad. This is a 330S-15IKB. This is a pretty common one we get in here a lot. This one has a bad keyboard. The RF, and V keys have stopped working. So we're going to be replacing that today. We have a replacement part here. And we are going to be placing it on this laptop. So first thing we gotta do is take out the bottom screws. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We have 10 screws in the bottom. So we're gonna start by taking these out. We recommend using a screw organizer if you have one, to make sure that when you put it back together, you'll know where all the screws go. So let's just start out by taking the bottom screws out first. Put one in the middle there. And make sure to take out anything plugged into the USB ports because it will prevent the top from coming off later. So put that off to the side. This is like a keyboard or mouse sender. And we have one up here. You can see that this post is actually broken. That prevents the screw from going in all the way. And that's broken, so we'll leave that in for now. Next thing we're going to do is use our pry tool. This is a guitar pick to pry in between the plastic for the bottom. And you shear some clips, go all the way around. And this should just pull right off. See this screw, this is the thing that fell off. Back there. Okay, so now we're going to have to pretty much transplant everything from this laptop into the new top. Unfortunately, the keyboard doesn't come out, so that you can only get away with just replacing the keyboard. So we'll have to transplant everything one for one. First thing we'll do is take out the battery, and that way we will prevent ourselves from accidentally damaging the laptop while it's getting power. So the battery we'll do first. And now it's also a good idea to take a picture of the layout on the inside. That way you'll know exactly where everything went. And if you want to, you can reference it when you're putting everything back together. So keep the battery off to the side. Next thing we'll do is move this little board over here. This tab is pretty hard to get to, so you can use your pry tool to lift up the black tab and then pull this connector straight up. So this is tapered in. And we can unscrew this little sideboard. This is the SD card reader, the BIOS battery, and a USB port. So we'll take that off just like that. And actually, this can go directly into the new one. So we will slide this in. Make sure that the port goes into the slot. So put it in at a little bit of an angle and then push in. And then we can put these two screws back up. And that will get this board back in place. Okay, and the BIOS battery here is held in with this double-sided tape, so let's make sure that stays lined up. And push down on it, make sure the tape's making good contact. Come lay this cable back down, and we can move on to the next thing. So the next thing we have, we will take out this shield here. This is held on by, looks like one screw and some tabs. So we'll take out the screw that was located right there. Yeah, and there's another one here actually. And here. Those three are all the same size. There was one here, and there. And now this should lift up. Just like so. And that little shield will come off. And that will allow us to access the components underneath, but also allow us to unplug the screen connector, which is going to be important for taking the motherboard out. So we can unplug the screen now if you'd like. It has this little black plastic here. You can pull that so that it comes loose like this, and then just pull straight up in this connector. Might be a little bit tricky. The Lenovo's, for some reason, always are a very tight fit, but that should lift straight up just like that. And we'll try to remember that this screen connector goes underneath the fan wire. Feed that back through and unround it. Put that off to the side. Next to the wireless wires, those also just pull straight up, just like that. And you can actually leave the wireless wire in the laptop because the post for that screw is actually soldered to the motherboard. So and leave that as it is. You can take out the hinge screws for the screen now. You can make 1, 2, and 3. Top there, just get 1 there, 1 there, and 1 here. Just like that, and maybe the other side. Get another 3 over there. And then we should be able to get the screen out. So to do that, we'll just open the laptop, and it should fall straight out, just like that. And then we can put that screen off to the side for when we put it in the new one. Some plastic broken out on this top, so it's a good thing we're replacing it anyway. Okay, so we can leave the jack plugged in because that's just on the motherboard pretty loosely in there. Next thing we'll do is take out the fan. So we have 2 screws in the fan. And the actual heatsink can stay on because that is also directly on the motherboard. Fan will just leave in there. We'll actually leave it plugged in. And we can unplug the existing keyboard connector. Lift that black tab up, and this will pull straight out like that. And same for the touchpad down here. The black tab comes up, and you can just pull that straight out. And last but not least, we have the speaker here. So we'll try to pull the speaker wire out. This one's a little tricky because the hard drive's still plugged in, but our solid state drive still plugged in, but this should just pull straight out as well. Okay, so now we'll take out the solid state drive or hard drive, depending on whatever you have in your specific model. So I'll take those 2 screws out down here. So you can see that there's 2 screws down here. And then lift up the drive on this edge and pull straight out. And then we'll come straight out like that. Okay. And so now we can take out the motherboard screws. These are labeled with these little triangles here. So it looks like we have 1. These are quite small screws, if you can see that. And it looks like we might only have 1 motherboard screw now. Okay, so then we can just lift the board straight out. And this top, the only thing we're missing now is the actual speakers. So down here we have speakers. So these aren't held in by screws. They're held in by these like vibration resistant rubber pieces. And these can pull right out, and pay attention to how this is routed in here for the replacement. We have this little metal bar here too. So this will come out like so. And put that off to the side. So this is straight out. And this whole thing can pull out, and then this can be discarded. Leave that. I'm going to put the new one in here instead. And this one actually already had this metal bar piece, so We didn't need to take that out of the old one, but that's okay. In case you buy this and you didn't have that, you would definitely have to swap that over. We'll do it in a little bit of a reverse order. Take this out of the new one. We'll put the speakers in. They will just line up with these plastic pieces here and push in. And those rubber domes should just overlap on the top. And then we can route the cable so that way it's held in nicely. Again, if you took a picture in the beginning, you can always reference that to get an idea for how the cable is run originally. As long as it's in there fairly well, we should be okay. Doesn't always exactly matter how well it's in, but the idea is that it's held in neatly. And cleanly. So we'll put this back in now. Let's see the bar. We have that hook there. It pushes in and goes down. Just like that. And it's screw cable. You put in to hold that in place. Okay, now we can do the motherboard, I guess. So that's fairly simple. In a reverse order, instead of going, the way that we pulled it out, we go inwards. So we put it on a little bit of an angle so that the ports line up. Line those up, push it in. Make sure you're not covering any connectors, and then we can lay the board down, and it should line up with all the plastic peg pieces and the posts and everything like that. Okay, so and just check, make sure we're not covering anything. Oh, good. And now we can put the single motherboard screw back in. Just like that. And then we can put the fan screws back in. There was only 2 of those. Okay, so now you can seat the jack into place. That should just line up where the hole is to where the DC charging jack goes in. And make sure all those connectors are still plugged in, and we can actually do this now and just plug in all these connectors again. Make sure these black ones have the tab up. Slide them in. And then we'll flip this back down. Just like that. Sure it's in focus. Same for this one. This up. Push this in. And latch it down. Make sure that that's nice and in there. Snip that. And we have the little sideboard that we had. We'll plug that in there too. We didn't unplug the fan, but if you did, make sure that that's still plugged in so that the computer doesn't overheat. Next, we can do the hard drive, in this case, solid state drive. We will make sure that this lines up with this. Make sure we have it in the right way. Same story, kind of put it in at an angle and then push it in. And then screw it down, and then that should be it for the drive. Okay, now we can put the screen back on. This part can be a little bit tricky sometimes. As long as you have the patience, you can definitely get it done pretty efficiently. So what we like to do is we like to push these hinges out so that way they are flat. They make a 90-degree angle with the screen itself. We will then take the top part of the laptop And for the most part, just line this up and it should push itself into place just like that. So we get its focus just like that. That should line right up. And then you can hold on to the hinges and close the laptop. Use your thumbs to see it'll take a little bit of pressure. And just like that, you have the screen back into the laptop. Actually, in this case, our screen cable got a little bit pinched there, so we want to make sure that goes underneath. Just like that. So you can see that. I want to make sure that our screen cable goes underneath the hinge and it's not being pinched. Okay, so now we're going to route this cable back in. So it goes above, under, above. And I believe, like we said before, this goes underneath the fan cable. So we will slide that underneath. And we will push this back on. Should hear a little click. And just make sure that that's on there really good. Otherwise, you won't get any picture when you put it back together. Do a little test pull. And there we go. We had 3 hinge screws on both sides, so we'll put those back in. If you're ever confused on which holes in the hinge you need to put screws in, there are little tiny arrows up here. And it might be difficult to see, but there are little tiny arrows that symbolize where screws should be. So in case you can't remember, you can always either reference your photo, or like I said, there's these little triangles here to symbolize that screws can step go here. So we'll do the next side here. Push the hinge down, make sure that the charging jack lines up. The wireless wires actually go on the outside of the hinge like that. So we push it down, we'll stand and pay attention to that. And we'll make sure that those route in correctly. And we just put the wireless wires back in. The black goes to the black, and the white goes to the white. Match the color with the cable. This will just push in like that. And they are very fragile, so be careful when you put those in. They can break very easily if you're not careful. So now we have the 3 remaining hinge screws. We have that little plate, and then we have the bottom, and then we should be good. Here. And now we can put that little plate back on, the shield cover. And it just goes on like this. Line that up with these screw holes. Looks good. Make sure you're not trapping any connectors or anything like that. That should just lay in there. Push down on it, make sure that it is in between those 2 little silver clips. And we can put those 3 screws back in. We had the one down here. We have one right here. And we had this one right up here. Okay, so now that that is all on and secure, we can put the battery back in. So the battery will just go in like this. That can just lay in there. Like so. And then we can start putting those screws back in before we plug it in. This job can be done with only a Phillips screwdriver. So this is a nice one if you want to do it at home and you don't have your toolkit available. All you need is just a regular Phillips screwdriver and you can get this job done. Let's see. It is nice. A lot of newer laptops were starting to put Torx and Penelope screws on the bottom cover to make it difficult to get into. Luckily, this model, even the bottom screws are Phillips. So now we can just put the bottom back on. This just snaps right in like that. And we put those screws in, and we should be good to go. Don't forget to plug in any USB senders you took out. And plug that in. So it's a good idea to make sure that the ports align anyway. So we like to test that USB drives fit in there. So we will go ahead and finish putting this back together and we will test the keyboard and then we will bill the customer appropriately. So that was how to replace the Palmrest / keyboard on a Lenovo Ideapad 330S. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more of our videos in the future. We have a series on cryptocurrency mining that we're working on. We have a first little demo video published already. But if you're interested in seeing more or interested in just computer repair in general, feel free to check out some of our other videos coming soon.